What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone, we are here with Christopher of Therion. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much for calling.
Anytime, man. Anytime. So we got Leviathan Part 2 coming out on the 28th of October. First thing is always first. I actually interviewed you guys before Leviathan 1. Do you recommend that a listener listens to Leviathan 1 before starting with Leviathan 2 if they're just getting on board now? Or could a listener just start off with Leviathan 2 and go back earlier in the Therion catalog?
Doesn't make any difference. They're just two different records. They are numbered because they're part of a trilogy, but they're not conceptual, so you can start with anyone.
Mm-hmm. Was this a preconceived idea? Was this trilogy something that Therion always wanted to do, or did it kind of just happen that way after writing a bunch of material?
It's actually the total opposite of what we wanted to do, because we would always do whatever we wanted and don't give a toss. And after Beloved Antichrist, I just felt we had done everything we wanted, so there was nothing left to tire for. So we thought the only thing we never did was trying to please the fans. So we thought, let's make a record that would be like a hit album, where we intentionally try to write Therion hit songs. We would listen to the Therion catalog and see what songs are the most popular and try to not copy them, but decipher them. Like, what is it in these songs that make people like them? And try to write new songs using a similar formula. And we got so much inspiration that it turned out to be enough songs to make 3 albums. And that's why it's a trilogy. And then we thought, let's divide the songs into different categories between the records so they would get a bit of a flavor of its own. Instead of just doing 3 records and just blend the songs, we thought we can try to put more vocal-oriented songs, very direct, short compositions on Leviathan 1, and also a bit more bombastic songs. And Leviathan 2, a little bit more melancholic and dark, but still hit songs. Like a darker twin for Leviathan 1, and Leviathan 3 would collect the songs that were a bit more adventurous, some more progressive songs, and some a bit heavier songs, some harder songs as well. So hopefully the majority of the fans can pick one favorite. We're reaching out in different directions, and hopefully somebody is feeling like, wow, this was the Leviathan for me. And if you're very lucky, a lot of people will like them all. But we'll just see.
Well, you kind of just answered the next question I had in mind, actually, because I was originally going to ask if, being that this is a trilogy, I thought that maybe you would have had to make like the music somewhat consistent to make everything in the Leviathan series sort of sound like they belong together. But that clearly wasn't the case with this, right?
No, but you still have a lot of it recorded in the same session. So sound-wise, they will somehow belong, because we just recorded, we've almost finished the recordings for Leviathan 3, but the basics has been total chaos in a good way. It hasn't been like, let's record Leviathan 1 first and Leviathan 2 later. We just recorded tons of drums for a lot of songs, and then we wrote some more songs meanwhile, and then we recorded bass and guitar, and then we've been flipping the songs around before finalizing them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the drums for Leviathan 3 were recorded at the same time as Leviathan 1, for instance. There will be a lot of old guitars and bass on Leviathan 3. So sound-wise, they're kind of connected. But in the mix, we try to give them a different flavor sound-wise.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that because this was like a triple album in a way, that it made the songwriting different than what we would hear on any of the other Therion albums? Did it almost feel like a completely different experience? Or being that Therion has so many albums out now already, that it did kind of feel like that you were kind of using similar tools from the toolbox?
Well, the songwriting process was radically different, because before Beloved Antichrist, we just wrote whatever we wrote. It was just spontaneous writing, and if we liked the song, we would record it. And if we thought the recording was good, we would release it on a record. Simple as that. And as the consequence of that, our record sales will go up and down a lot between the releases because some records will be radically more popular than others and so on. And some of the records would, with time, catch up with popularity. Like Secret of the Rooms was a big flop when it was released, and 10 years later it was considered one of our best records. But when we did The Love of Antichrist, we couldn't just write spontaneous because it's not a concept album. It's a rock musical. So each track is a scene. And on each scene, there's something happening on the stage. It's music theater. So you have to write music specifically for what's going on the stage. For those voices that those characters have, and something suitable to what they're doing, and also a length suitable to what's happening on stage. So I had to force myself to write music on command when we made The Love of Antichrist. In the beginning, it was easy to just get inspiration and find a scene, but the fewer scenes that were left, the harder it got to write music for those specific scenes. But the good thing is that it taught me to write music on command instead of just writing spontaneous.
Mm-hmm. Well,
what we used when we wrote the stuff for Leviathan was when we then listened to the most popular songs, we could actually try to write in a certain direction instead of just writing whatever comes.
Well, I've always thought because Therion music has had so many different elements, both sonically and conceptually, it almost seemed like the sky was the limit for the songwriting process. In terms of the concepts that have been addressed, whether it would have been in Beloved Antichrist or from Of Darkness, which I'll get into in a second, but has there ever been a time that where your personal life or your personal experiences also maybe influenced the subject matter that Therion wanted to address, or has Therion always been a means of escape from your personal life?
Well, on the first record, we had some political lyrics, but I kind of fast realized that that's not what I want to do. I want music to be escapism, and I want music to be without boundaries for people. Like some people that normally would hate the guts out of each other could still find something in common in music. I think that should be the role of the entertainer. You shouldn't have to worry about what the people that make the movie you watch, what they're thinking privately, or what your favorite guitar player is thinking privately. But when I made the Of Darkness, I was very influenced by Metallica, Nuclear Assault, Nick on Death. I was a teenager, everything was very political. But even at the end of my teens, I realized that's not the path where I want to go. So it should be escapism.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just brought me, because I was going to mention that last year was the 30-year anniversary of Darkness, and this year is the 30-year anniversary of Beyond Sanctorum, and I was just wondering, what the different thought process was, being that Of Darkness clearly had a completely different formula or a different subject matter address. Was Beyond Sanctorum really the first Therion record as you know it and as we know it in a way?
Yeah, but I mean, of Darkness, we were young teens when we wrote that. We were like 15, 16 years old when we wrote that record. We barely had learned how to play our instruments when we did it. So that record will always be very different from everything else we do because everything was just totally new. Beyond Sanctorum, I think, was the first record where we actually had a vision when we made the record.
Mm-hmm. And
also, Beyond Sanctorum was the first record also where we experimented, because the first record was just, trying to get things right.
Well, I thought with the first record, I've almost considered that to be Therion's punk rock album in a way, because you're right, I do see some political elements in there, especially with songs like Morbid Reality or Genocidal Raids or The Return in a way. I felt like that was almost Therion's punk rock album in a way. I felt like it had the sort of same debut element that Sepultura had on their first album.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to Sepultura. It was like thrash metal bands and Nick on Death that was influenced for that. I never really listened to punk rock. I never liked their attitude and never liked it musically either. They always had a very sloppy attitude. We were not very brilliant musicians when we made the first record, but at least we tried to do it as good as we could. The punk mentality was always like, oh, it doesn't fucking matter, let's just do it, it's punk. And I always hated that. That's why I also didn't like the second wave of black metal bands, because when Bathory did the early stuff, he was very punky and very primitive, but he did the best he could with the equipment he had in his musical skills. And in the second death metal wave, they wanted to be like Bathory, so they intentionally made bad recordings and made it sloppy. Kind of punk mentality, you know. So I never really liked punk. It's a few songs, you know, like God Save the Queen and Sex Pistols. Who doesn't like that? But as a general thing, I really don't like punk music or punk attitude.
Well, I give you a lot of. I actually couldn't agree with you more. Like, punk rock is one thing when it's natural, but like when people are deliberately trying to make something that sounds terrible just to be punk rock, that to me is just a cop out to make mediocre work. In my opinion, I couldn't agree with you more.
It's always the second way, because the Sex Pistols, they try to do their best, I'm sure of it. I mean, they had this cocky attitude, but when they were in the studio, they're like, okay, let's nail this guy. Same thing Ramones or anything else at that time, the Clash. But it's always the second wave. They're going to try to be like their heroes. And they're like, oh, they're really trashy, and it sounds trashy. Let's make it bad. Shit attitude.
Yep. If you want to make bad music on purpose, I mean, like, it's, to me, that's just a waste of time. Do you feel like with the release of every album, though, that maybe the concepts of every Therion album could evolve over time as you evolve as an artist? Or do you prefer if every Therion album is more or less a snapshot of who you were at that particular time when it came out?
We just try to catch the moment, you know, right before we make the record. It's usually very spontaneous, and when we work on a record, normally I have no idea what we're going to do next. And once we finish the record, I usually feel completely exhausted mentally and have really no inspiration or ideas whatsoever what we're going to do next. And then it just comes naturally. It's been, this Leviathan Trilogy is the first time where we announce what we're going to do in advance and where we ourselves know what we're doing next.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel that having different members come in to Therion as well? Because, you know, especially since Laurie has played with, you know, a lot of other great bands as well, and so many other of your members have played in great bands. Do you feel that that keeps allowing new elements to come into Therion as well?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody has something to contribute with, I would never say no. And with the songwriting for the Leviathan Trilogy, it's been me and Thomas Wikström who wrote most of it together. We just made it a very good songwriting team now all of a sudden. And when we did Gothic Kabbalah, I didn't write the majority of the songs there. If other guys come with great ideas, I would never discriminate them against my own ideas. We just put everything on the table, and whatever is the best, that's what we're going to record.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been a lot of input of other people over the years. The only thing is that I'm the captain of the ship, so I'm not going to do something that I don't like.
Of course.
If everybody else in the band would say, let's do this song, and I say, sorry, I think this song sucks, then I don't care if everybody else likes it. I'm not going to do anything I don't like. But theoretically, I could make a record where I wrote nothing and everybody else wrote it. If I think their stuff is better than mine, I wouldn't have a second thought about that. I would just do it.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate to have this type of talent magnet, you know. I've always managed to bump into the right people because I've been very fortunate to work with very talented people over the years.
Yeah. I've always said, like, the ultimate collaborative efforts in this style of extreme metal is you guys and Avantasia, the way that you guys are able to bring in so many different elements, and you and Sasha both are just remarkable composers in a way. Like, I've always considered you to be almost like the Hans Zimmer of metal in a way. So
Hans Zimmer. You write movie scores, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm probably more weird than that because I have such a weird music taste, a broad music taste, and one of the reasons that it's so easy for me to write is that Therion allows you to go in so many different directions. I think it would be very difficult for me to do what he's doing. Like you have one formula and you need to follow it.
Yeah.
Like writing film music and so on. The most impressive band on the planet when it comes to songwriting has to be AC/DC because they made so many records with the same three chords and they can still write good songs. I mean, who the fuck can do that?
Yeah, but I think it's more impressive when a band like Therion is able to make many different albums. Like, I mean, you released Lumeria and Sirius B in the same year, and you've released so many albums, and they're all very different, and they all sound incredible. So I think what you are able to do is more of a, no, not to discredit AC/DC, but I think what you guys do are actually more of a challenge.
Well, different types of challenge. I think it's harder to write another hit song with the same three chords when you've done 15 albums or 20 albums. What is easy for me is that if I get fed up with one direction, I can always blend in whatever I like. I mean, we have 70s influences, we have 80s heavy metal influences, we have death metal heritage, from thrash metal heritage, we use folk music influences, we have classical influences, 70s prog rock and symphonic rock influences, even some 60s influences. But it's heavily hidden sometimes. You know, you just play it with a chunky modern metal guitar and people just swallow it. If you would have arranged it differently, they would have said, wow, it sounds like music for grannies, you know. And this is kind of what I wanted to prove also with the French cover album we did in 2012 with Leviathan. But I can take 60s girly pop songs and transform them into Therion metal. But it's much more the arrangement than the actual composition that people are sensitive to.
Definitely.
And one of our most popular songs is Summer Night City, an ABBA disco song that we rearranged. So in a way, it's actually easier for me because if I get to a halt where I can't get any further with something, I can just put in fresh influences from whatever I like. I mean, there would be limitations to what the Therion fans would buy on the record, but there's so much you can get away with, especially these days when there are no new innovations really. I haven't heard a band the last 15 years, which is, you know, radically original compared to the rest. So today it's more about writing a good song and blending whatever's already existing. So, and that's something I'm very good at, blending styles and make them sound seamless and natural.
Yeah. Do you find it, though, the longer you're working on a song, the harder it is to sort of maintain the moment that actually inspired it? Or does working on a song for a long time allow you to make the song better?
It's so different. Sometimes you just have the song and there it is. So you just make a demo and you nail it. Sometimes you have some idea that you like, but you don't make a real song out of it. And if there are other ideas, I could be like giving Thomas a call and say, hey, I have some cool riffs. I can send them over if you have nothing better to do. And then maybe he finds a cool vocal melody for it and he sends it back. And then I get more ideas and extend it and so on. Since we started to write in the way we're writing now, songwriting has become way more interesting because we don't throw away anything. If Thomas is writing a song which is style-wise totally wrong for Therion, he could still send it to me and maybe I rearrange it and it will be sound like Therion. And maybe I write some really cool riffs, but my vocal melodies are pretty lame and where it just sounds like, okay, I've done this 100 times. I can't get any further. I send it to him, I delete my vocal lines, and he sends me back a hit song. You know? So, and sometimes, you know, we have a song that has something, but we're not really happy, and we just keep on working on it forever. I'm it will finally be famous. So it's really anything from 15 minutes to a year.
Yeah, and I'd imagine as you write more and more and more, there's more and more doors that are constantly unlocked.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such an awesome interview. Is there just anything else with the release of Leviathan 2 that you would like to promote with it coming out October 28th?
I think the vinyl is going to be delayed. That's the latest news I heard. Sadly, it's a total pain in the ass, this vinyl thing. I mean, I love vinyl, so for me it's great that people start buying vinyl again. It's lovely, but the pressing plants, they are so behind. They're so incredibly behind. We could have released Leviathan 2 in April this year, but Music Law said, no, the pressing plant can't deliver in that time. They need until September. So we set a release date for 28th of September, and then the pressing plant got back to them and said, sorry, we can't deliver. Okay, so we pushed it another month to 28th of October, and now we're coming again like, sorry, we can't deliver in time. So the CD and the digital release is going to be on the 28th of October because we can't push it more now. And then we just see when they will deliver the vinyl. It will be like 2 weeks later or something.
Okay.
Very annoying though, this whole situation. If I was at Nuclear Law, I would fucking buy a pressing plant. I know some other record labels with that because they're so big. Why wouldn't they have their own pressing plant? Why wait? If we have to wait over 10 months, can you imagine if you're on a small label and you're a no-name band? I spoke with some colleagues, and they said it's standard now to wait 1 year. And how fun is that? You work on a record and you make the mix ready, and wow, the new record is ready. And then you're going to wait for over a year to have it released?
That's a pain in the ass.
Anticlimax. Totally.
Yeah. Well, wish you the best of luck.
Really sorry for people. Really sorry for people who have been waiting for the vinyl, but yeah, they will deliver it as soon as we can, I guess.
It'll be worth the wait, I could tell you that. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Therion. Be sure to check out Leviathan Part 2 coming out very soon. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.